Hello everyone, this is Frederick Dortmund from coherentlifecoaching.com. Today I wanted to talk about the infamous shit test, which I find endlessly fascinating. So I think it's also essential knowledge for men, and it can be helpful for women as well to know about the shit test. So what is it? Well, in my humble opinion, and of course this is a completely amateur opinion, a shit test is something unreasonable a woman says or does in order to test a man's strength of character. So she is most likely doing this unconsciously, right? So there might be women with exceptionally high levels of self-knowledge who are going to be conscious of the fact that they sometimes test their men. But again, the shit test is anything really unreasonable, something wild a woman says either directly to the man or indirectly that is supposed to, or at least will gauge through the man's response how strong his character is, like his integrity, his strength, his detachment from his woman, or any woman for that matter. Biologically, historically, women are the primary caretakers of children, right? So when they commit to a man, it means it's about a 2-decade investment and kind of entanglement that they can hardly get out of in a state of nature. And so it's incredibly important for the woman to know exactly how strong the man is going to be in protecting her and her family, her children, and also his ability to provide for the family, to gather the resources, get the food, and just provide, keep the family safe. Now, so the shit test is there to gauge the man's strength in the same way that men do value or estimate a woman's fertility all the time, right? So those are kind of similar because when the woman looks at a potential partner, she's asking, is this man going to be good for me, right? So that's a more complicated calculation. She's not just asking if the man is handsome, but since she depends on the man for resources and for protection, she needs to know his strength of character. And for the man, on the other hand, that's a little simpler because in general, or biologically speaking, what really matters for the man is his partner's ability to produce healthy offspring. So her level of fertility, which is primarily represented in her level of beauty. So let's look at examples, right? Let's take a couple and they get engaged, right? So they want to marry, they want to make a family, and so they look at houses, what they might want to buy, and maybe they're currently living on in a rented apartment, and so they decide they want to spend 150K on a house, like after they're married or something, right? So they make the agreement, they take a look at a few houses, and it's done, right? We're gonna do that. So they get married, and a couple of months into the marriage, she's like, you know what? I changed my mind. I want a fancier house. You know, I looked at some magazines, and I want a nicer house, right? And so now there are a few responses Dave can give, right? And one of those responses to just say, okay, you know, okay, we're gonna buy a house for 300K. Now, if he just agrees to that without even acknowledging that an agreement has been broken for no apparent reason, then she is going to lose a lot of respect for him. Why? Well, it turns out she can treat him like an ATM, right? So that displays a very low level of self-esteem, of confidence in the man, because if he is so desperate for her, attention, or rather her sticking around, that he's just going to agree that, or just going to accept that his woman made the decision to just get a house that is twice as expensive, then really he is showing that he can't afford to stand up for himself, to also assert the needs of his family in terms of how sustainable this is going to be. And like, does Dave really want to be enslaved to the house and, in a way, his wife, because his wife just made it up, right? His wife just changed the agreement, and this is kind of enslaving him if it's not no longer a negotiation. But maybe she's thinking like, now I'm married, I'm just gonna test the boundaries, right? So the much better response of Dave would be to say, first of all, well, important that you bring it up. We can change agreements, of course, but it must be a negotiation, right? So a much better way would be to talk about, like, why do you think we need a house for 300K? Like, what's the reasoning? Maybe it is better, right? Maybe Dave can make more money, can find a way to make more money, or maybe they want to have more children than they thought in the beginning, right? There can be reasons to change the agreement, but the point is that Dave acknowledges and asserts himself as an equal participant in the relationship with equal kind of authority, right, over the decisions that are going to be made. Let's take a look at another example, right? So let's take Dave again. Maybe he's a little younger, right? Maybe he's 18 years old and he's at a party or something, and he's around, female friends, and he's trying to lift something heavy, maybe a box of beer or whatever, right? College life. And he can't do it, or it falls to the ground, right? And the girls are whispering to themselves like, fail, so he can still hear it, but it's not directly it's not directed at him. And so they're making fun of him, right? They're making fun of him for lacking in strength in physical strength. Now, why is that a shit test? Well, fundamentally, for a woman to ridicule a man is unreasonable, right? Because certainly in terms of physical strength, right? Because most likely Dave is going to be significantly stronger than those friends, those female friends, and so that can be taken as a shit test. Now, once again, Dave can be the petty attached guy who's like, well, I bet you couldn't lift it any better or something, right? I bet you can't even lift half the box, right? So in that case, he is acknowledging the women's comment as a serious attack towards his character, and he's offended by it, right? And that shows how insecure he is. Now, if he just shrugs it off and doesn't even react to it because he knows, he probably heard it, that they laughed about it, that they commented on it in a derogatory manner, but he's going to just shrug it off because he knows, well, it happens, and they can't. He knows that they can't lift any better, and a superior man, maybe even if he cares about it, might even take that as a starting point for working out more, or just becoming better at lifting stuff, because that's handy. Let's face it, and so he can turn that into a very, very positive incident where he can learn to work out and learn good form and how to engage his whole body and grow muscles, which is a wonderful thing, which I highly recommend. So when we look at those two examples, in the first example, it's a pretty clear shit test, right? She's just making up unreasonable requests, and that they are directed at him, right? She's just saying that at him directly, and that's a very obvious shit test, right? If you know what it is. Now, in the second example, it's more indirect, like they weren't directing anything to him, but they were knowledgeable of the fact that he's probably going to pick up on it. Now, is the shit test a good or bad thing? That's a curious question. I wouldn't personally say it's neither good nor bad, because it's in the nature of women. Women shit test all the time, in the same way that men gauge women's level of fertility all the time, right? I think most men are guilty of looking at women, maybe a little bit too much at times. And so it's in women's nature to gauge a man's strength of character. And so the shit test is elemental in that. The nice thing about the shit test is that if you receive shit tests, it is actually a good sign in regards to her being at least somewhat attracted to you, right? If she wouldn't bother about you at all, she would not shit test you. So a shit test is actually, in a way, a good sign. She is giving you the opportunity to demonstrate your strength of character, right? And if you pass the test, that's going to be an instant boost in her level of attractiveness that she feels towards you. Now, if you want to know a little more or a lot more about this dynamic between feminine and masculine attraction, then I highly recommend reading a book by Deida, which is called The Way of the Superior Man. It's certainly, for me, the eye-opener. It has been the eye-opener in the past about what it actually means for men to be attractive to women, what men really want, not only out of women, but out of life in general. And it can also be helpful for women to get a little better understanding about this, about what's happening in a relationship between a masculine man and a feminine woman. Now, if you're still a little confused about this, fear not. I'm actually offering coaching for free, and you can go to coherentlifecoaching.com if you're interested in that. All the details are on there. So I hope this has been helpful. Please leave any kind of questions that are still left about this topic or maybe any other topic in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and take care.